Recording.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for being here. Happy Wednesday. We are excited to bring this to a wrap. This is a wrap. For us, I think we have one more session tomorrow from MPC folks that we are looking forward to see how just the community and the partners for that project, for the Rogers Park CDI, react to some of the just feedback and exercises and whatnot. So my name is Paola Aguirre. Can you see my screen? Okay. My name is Paola Aguirre. I'm co-founder of City Open Workshop. El Ramel and I have been doing this for about 4 years now, which it just started as a pilot, and we're just very excited to have created a community where we see a lot of civic-minded people coming together and meeting each other and collaborating in different endeavors. And we're really just grateful that all of you are connected and continue to be part of this group. One of the traditions, or like we really believe in meeting who is on the table. So we're gonna go, I'm gonna start putting things also in the chat, like the agenda, Google Doc, and some of the slides that we prepared for today. And yeah, let's go on a round of introductions. So as I mentioned, please say your name, pronouns, what do you do, how do you hear about City Open, and like if you have participated before. We have people who have been like several seasons with us. And one thing you're doing before winter lockdown, I'm gonna popcorn it to Luisa. I'm gonna think about it.
Oh man, I was trying to think about something quick. Okay, I'm Luisa. I am a designer at Leighton Design, and I've been working with here and there, bouncing in and out of City Open since the beginning. But I've been blogging this season, so you can check those out on the website under past workshops. And one thing that I will be doing before winter lockdown, hopefully make it out to the lake a few more times. I'll popcorn it to Debbie.
Hi everyone, my name is Debbie, and I am with Metropolitan Planning Council. Heard about City Open through Elle and Paula, and this is my first official City Open workshop. Definitely have been tangentially involved and like have heard the different projects from before. One of the things that I will be doing before winter lockdown. So there's this like illumination that is a drive-through illumination with the Botanic Garden that I'm interested in seeing. But anyway, hopefully like more activity before we actually have to go back to sheltering in place. That it has been different for me. I will pass it to Rachel.
Hello, I'm Rachel Levy, she, her, hers. I am a lighting designer with Rachel Levy Designs. And I heard about City Open because I'm actually a Rogers Park resident, and I participated as a resident in this workshop and just kind of fell in love with the mission of City Open. So I'm interested in learning more. And one thing that I want to do before winter lockdown is go camping again. So, oh, and then I'll pass it to Matthew Sanders.
Thank you, Rachel. Appreciate that. I am Matthew Sanders. I am an emergency management consultant. I heard about City Open through Elle. We were in a real estate development class together last fall at Kellogg in the evenings, and this is my first season, so I've been involved for the last month and change or so. One thing I'm looking to do before winter lockdown, I am going to have a niece any day now, of my first niece. So I'm hopefully going to be able to visit her and my sister at some
Congratulations.
point before winter lockdown happens. Yeah. Okay, let's go ahead. I will popcorn it to Karen with the C. Or did you just go, Karen? Oh, yeah.
No. Kara or Karen?
Karen.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name's Karen, which has been well established now. I work at SB Friedman. I'm an economic development planner there. I heard about City Open Workshop from an APA Illinois conference session and really was excited about it. So I've started attending this fall. And one thing I'm going to do, I'm going to second what Rachel said. I'm also going to try and go camping one more time before it gets way too cold. So with that, I will popcorn it to Mark. Can't hear you.
You are muted. You can do this, Mark. No. Well, you can introduce yourself in the chat. That's also a way to do that. Yeah, Mark has been, I can do Weisendale. He's a creative lead at Weisendale, and he has been a really enthusiastic collaborator in this workshops. And he'll introduce himself in the chat. I can popcorn to someone else. Jane.
Hi, I'm Jane Anderson. I'm a researcher project. My first time with one thing I look forward to doing before the winter lockdown is go to the new Brooklyn Boulders climbing gym that just opened in Lincoln Park. First time to go, so I'm hoping to do that. And I will pass it over to Ray.
Who did you say?
Ray.
Ray.
Hey, sorry. My name is Ray. I work with both Daylight and, which is a strategic, sorry, I'm trying to work out while I'm doing this. I'm kind of out of breath.
That's the first one.
I know. I've never done that, so it's probably a bad idea. Yeah, so I work with a strategic consulting firm and also with Get Cities. I first found out about City Open from Paula and Al, and I just started this season. And one thing I want to do before winter lockdown is there's like a bunch of really cute bars on Glenwood Avenue that have like little outdoor seating areas, and they made them really cute. And so I'm hoping to go there before it gets too cold to do outdoor dining. Sorry again for the very out of
plan. We know you're going to be working out for sure. Maddie.
Hi, I'm Maddie. I'm a landscape designer with Design Workshop. I heard about City Open just through social media outlets and channels. This is my second season. One thing that I'm trying to do before lockdown, I think, is also just hit up all the restaurants that I can go to before it becomes too cold and the restrictions become tighter. Oh, popcorn. Kendra.
Hi, I'm Kendra. I work at MTC. I heard about City Open through Paola, who invited me to speak at one of the sessions last year. This is my first kind of full participation in the whole session, segment, cohort. I don't know. And one thing I want to do before winter lockdown, I really want to go on a road trip. I'm just really wanting to go on a road trip. I feel the reality of that happening is slim to none at this point, but I'm holding out hope.
Just gotta go south.
I don't know, because you know the COVID numbers are horrible down there. So okay, did Genevieve go yet?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Genevieve. She, her, hers. I work for SNH. I'm a designer, and I've been involved in City Open for a couple of seasons now. And winter lockdown before that, I also am really trying to go on a road trip, I think, to Michigan over Thanksgiving holidays. But it's really hard to plan. That's it. Oh, yeah. And then the next person. Let's see. Juan, have you gone?
No, I haven't. Oh, okay. Hi everyone. My name is Juan. He, him, his. I work at Lucha. I'm a community engagement specialist there, and I'm doing outreach with CHA as well. How did I hear about City Open? Well, I worked on a project with, or I assisted Paola with a project on camp with Esri. So that was pretty fun. And also through MPC when I was a research assistant there. And so I participated with the CDI work. And then one thing I want to do before lockdown, I think I agree with everyone about wanting to hit up certain restaurants. I have a few like local spots in my neighborhood that I know are going to be shut down for quite some time, so I want to enjoy them as much as possible, preferably outdoors as well. Oh, and popcorn. Let's see. Jordan. Bailey.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Jordan Bailey. I'm an architect and planner by training. I'm currently working as land use and planning and ETOD associate at Metropolitan Planning Council. So this is kind of through this project that we're working on right now is my first connection with City Open. I'm excited about future seasons. I think it's probably the end of kayaking for the summer with winter lockdown. So I need to pack up and get everything cleaned up for the winter. I will popcorn it to, I think, sorry, I'm not sure who hasn't gone
Arnold
yet.
and Thina.
Anthena?
Anthena here. Let's see. Let's see. Baby. See the baby?
Oh.
My name is Gore. I work at Elevate Energy as a project coordinator, but for real, I'm project managing a couple of community and economic development projects that we have going. So that's been a wonderful brand new experience with bureaucracy. No, it's really been good though. I heard about City Open from the co-founders. I was a part of season 1 where we crushed it at Otis Fresh Farm. And one thing I'm doing before winter lockdown, one thing we managed to do was during the election craziness, we just went up and got like a jacuzzi suite in a hotel and took a break from everybody in the world while, you know, the good citizens of America got together. So it was nice to get away and to really focus on family. I took my daughter on her first nature walk in the Ryerson Woods. It was super awesome. So it would be great to see you all, what is it, Saturday the 14th? So I can show you the video of her walk. I'll pass it to, did Mark go? You did, Arnold?
Arnold.
So that's me.
Yep.
I guess. Yeah, my name's Arnold. I am currently a transit program oversight manager with SPM. I heard about City Open through Paula and through Elle. I used to work with Elle a couple years back at UI Labs. Yeah, I've been around for a couple years now. I think has it been 3 years? I think I've been at least part of most of the sessions that have been around since I first heard about it. One thing I want to do before winter lockdown is figure out how to safely and socially distance how to safely see my parents for Thanksgiving, and in a way that is not going to be overly dangerous for anyone involved. Is that all?
Yeah, I think like Pablo, is that who hasn't gone yet?
I can screen share my baby. I have pictures. I'll just show you guys one picture and then so Debbie will not be mad at me. There.
Wait, I can't see it.
Oh, really?
Because you're not sharing your screen.
You don't see this baby picture?
Mm-mm. I'm gonna stop
cool,
sharing.
I'm glad I can't.
I stopped sharing. You can share. There you go. Ta-da!
Ta-da!
Our youngest city opener, city open workshopper.
He's big enough for a chair today. Thank you.
Oh, wow.
All right. Yeah. All right.
Resuming.
I'm Elle. I'm a co-founder. And I'm going to try to get to the Art Institute with a stroller, maybe, before lockdown. Because there's like 20 people inside of it.
True. Kristen, did you go?
No, I have not gone yet. Hello, everyone. I'm Kristen. I am the marketing manager at Omni Ecosystems, and I'm also part of the Weisendale team. I do content stuff for them. So hello, Mark. I haven't seen you in a while. Nice to see you. I heard about City Open through a lot of the people that are on this call right now, just mutual connections. And this is my first season. And I'm actually going to the Architecture for the People exhibit at Brightwood 659 tomorrow. So I'm really excited for that. I'm like reading through the exhibit guide right now. And yeah, I used to live down the street from there and I never went. So I'm really excited to be going tomorrow. And who has not gone? Matthew, have you gone?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I think
Paola, have you gone?
I did. Did Pablo go? Pablo's iPhone?
Oh, that's me. I went on my dad's phone. I'm Jaya.
Jaya.
Not
Okay,
Pablo,
Jaya.
Jaya. Hi. I don't know why it always says that. She, her, hers. I'm a designer at SNHA. I heard about City Open through Paola. And the last thing I'm gonna do before winter hits is I'm already like a real homebody, so I'm trying to set up all my grow lights and like create a little indoor jungle so I can be happy when the sun goes away. So yeah.
Oh, great. That sounds really great. Okay, everyone. Rachel went. Okay, great. So I'm going to, where is it? Sorry, so many windows open here. We because we've been in such a like an intense pace, we haven't gotten enough chance to do our announcements necessarily this season. So I just want to make sure we take a moment. We are always acknowledging that this space was inspired and City Open Chrome, yes. It was inspired by Chai Hack Nights. So if you never experienced Chai Hack Nights, right now it's a little different, or a lot different, of course, because it's virtual, but that's a place that inspired City Open in the format, in the way that we use our open documents, and everything is referenced out of the website. If you want to come back to any of these documents, and many of you know this already, everything lives in the website, and it's open. You just have to go. Oh, you can also join our mailing list by accessing that, and everything under calendar. It's all the sessions that we've been working on, and all the materials, including the agenda and the slides, are included and can be accessed through this link that we put up here. So the idea is that these materials are always available and can be edited by by all of us. So we want to just recognize that. Does anyone have any announcements? We have a few that we want to share here, and they're also available in the agenda document. What's going on with the City Open Fall Winter Restaurant Working Group? Is that still going on?
Yeah. First of all, thank you for everyone in the Fall Winter Restaurant Group for just kind of picking up the pieces when I had to go to the hospital. But glad to say that we did complete the Fall Winter Dining Guide. Obviously, we completed it right before Pritzker's new indoor dining rules. So that's interesting, as it's included. I have uploaded our dining guide to the guides on our page. I have also updated the designer directory for people interested in helping restaurants with questions. I'm going to package this for the Illinois Restaurant Association and ask them if they want any updates for their population. This is I was thinking it's more sensitive time, because this is not about like design changes. This is like people struggling with politics and policy. So the restaurant group is meeting 5:30 next Wednesday, the 18th, and we're just going to meet monthly now to understand what changes we need based on the new regulation. And we're going to use the winter to document people's efforts in like domes and tents and what happened, in order to formalize some policy observations for next spring, because right now everything's kind of happening sort of ad hoc. Kristen and Mark, I don't know if you had anything you wanted to add.
What's the next Wednesday?
Yeah, 5:30.
5:30. What day of November is it?
It's 18th.
Okay. And how do people, if they want to join, they just email us, Open City Workshop?
Yeah, I'll just say email. I'll just say opencityworkshop@gmail.com if you're interested.
Okay, I just put it there. Great. Something I'm really excited to share. We've been working in collaboration with Layton Design and the Chicago Architecture Biennial in this kind of putting together an organization that could bring designers together, similar to City Open, but with a mission that it's both around being responsive to immediate needs. I think this was kind of a spin-off of the restaurant reopening group, and also how do we do more supporting of long-term visions through design services, and just like not in an exercise similar to what we do at City Open, but much more kind of design services oriented. Also, some of the ideas behind this project is creating a like a network, and also like research projects around just inventory directory of design work that can be amplified through connections around the city. So we're going to introduce this on Friday. This is called a Design Trust Chicago. And if you're interested, curious, you can join us on Friday, 12 to 1 to learn more about it. I just put Design Night in case for those who enjoy architecture community. There's the famous Design Night that's going to happen virtually this year, Friday, 3:30. AI Chicago organizes this really cool party. Right now, it's all going to be virtual. We'll see how that goes. Some other Arquitectos, it's a Hispanic organization. It's organizing a virtual firm crawl. So I'm just putting all the information there. Who is doing this? Who did this one?
I threw that in there because I was hoping to go this week.
Yeah,
But
you want to just say
yeah,
more about it?
there's a screening of I think it's an artist film at the Night Gallery, which is basically an outdoor projection space with Future Firm. And they will be doing a socially distanced viewing at this Friday at 7 p.m. I think.
Mm-hmm.
So
There's a lot going on
it'll be
Friday.
my first time going, but yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Always.
and that's for you don't know, Future Firm and Borderless, which is my the urban design consultancy I also co-founded, share space. So if you go, you'll get a chance to sneak peek our office space. A couple other things. MPC always has a lot of events going on. This is one that I'm going to be a panelist. I've been working on this project called the People's Budget Chicago. The Chicago Architecture Biennial is rolling more programming, and the next one that they have, they just announced their 2021 theme and artistic director, and their next program is next week about collaborative design in a Chicago neighborhood. Maddie, I think you were related to this one.
Yeah, so I'm an emerging leader co-chair for Illinois ASLA. And the point of this series is to connect emerging leaders in the design fields with other organizations that are doing like really cool things. So we're going to be talking to Anna Wolf from the Center for Neighborhood Technology about some of their green infrastructure initiatives, climate resilience, things like that. So it should be fun.
That's very exciting. I work with Anna in a couple of design installation projects. Yeah.
Cool. Excited to talk to her.
Yeah, she's great. I think Kendra knows her well too. Okay. Anything else that should go on this list? What's going on? Anyone who wants to speak about the volunteering with the Love Bridge? I don't know who included that.
Sure. I added that last week. They're always looking for volunteers, so it's not date-based, but you can find the closest fridge to you and fill food or sign up to maintain the fridge, which is basically just sanitizing it and logging that it still works. It takes like 15 minutes. Super cool mutual aid group, and they're kind of all across the city. They basically hook up a fridge to a voluntary restaurant or someone's house, and there's been minimal notices from aldermen, from what I hear, that that something is non-compliant or anything like that. So it's very low key.
Nothing in COVID times is compliant. Any interesting solutions? Okay, cool. Well, if you anyone wants to add anything to this, what's going on that you're checking out or attending?
I understood this what's going on. Is that right?
Google Voice is paying attention. Go ahead, Kristen.
I am trying to pull up the invite. I had registered for this. Put myself on the spot and now I can't find it. Actually, let me pull up my calendar here. I'd registered for this event tomorrow evening, but I can't go because the exhibit is tomorrow. When I find it, I'll drop it in the chat though. I can't find it. Stay tuned.
Well, if you find it, just for there, we also kind of blast this through our Twitter account, so folks know more about this event. So yeah, this is basically us referencing each other to things that are interesting to this group. So we just never have enough time to share good stuff. But because it's our last session, I want to make sure we had time for this. Who's the anonymous unicorn? Who's typing this?
I am typing that.
Oh, do you want to talk about it?
Yeah. So the city of Chicago yesterday opened up their Chicago Hospitality Grant Program, and they're taking applications. So restaurant and bars with, I believe it's less than a $3 million annual operating revenue are encouraged to apply. and I'm putting this in here because I know there was some work done with helping restaurants and bars rethink their space. So if there are folks in that network that you know need additional funding, I think the total pot is 10 million. So encourage them to sign up.
Thanks, Anthena. All right. Let's see. Okay, cool. So going back to our agenda, and you can always find those references in this document. Going back to the agenda, well, this is a wrap. So I wanna thank again MPC, Kendra, Debbie, Jane, Jordan, amazing team. You guys got final workshop is tomorrow. Do you guys want to say, like, just give us the roundup, like who's, I think the idea was to bring some speakers. I'm going to pull out the registration page here. Do you want to just give an overview of what's happening tomorrow?
Yeah, let me share my screen.
Will do. Hold on. Stop share. Go for it.
Okay. Oh no, that is. Oh my gosh.
That was not the screen you want to share?
That is. Why am I calling you, Mark? I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Mark. I did not mean to call you. Okay, it was the wrong button on the wrong screen. Okay, we're good now. So I'm just gonna quickly kind of just like glance through the presentation. But basically we are showing 4 scenarios. We're keeping one of the scenarios just existing garden based on the feedback that we've heavily received. And then, sorry, I'm kind of trying to go through all these. Here we go. So this is just to maintain the garden. There has been also like some suggestions to like include some enhancements to it, including like things like greenhouses. But for the sake of this, we're just saying that we're maintaining this 100% garden, and that will be the existing scenario. Then for all the scenarios, we're going through some challenges and some like limitations, which include like for this one, this is very unlikely for this to have to continue as is, given that the city wants to sell it. So and then we'll talk a little bit about health benefits as well. And then scenario 2, which is a farm with an garden with an urban farming concept and incubator. So this is about half retaining the garden, and then some commercial space, some residential, and some retail. And maybe it should say plus housing. So what we're looking at here is there are some ideas that like if the garden should exist, then it should have some profit generating aspect to it, whether that's job training stuff, composting service, CSA, hydroponic system, and green roofs as like other examples of ways that we can continue to integrate more of the farming concept with the garden. And so there's been some talk about incubators. And so this is a proposal that kind of shows that type of concept that is closer to like something like a farm on Ogden. And Farm on Ogden will be one of the panelists tomorrow. So then it has other additional limitations and challenges. Then scenario 3 is garden with community space and housing. So this is a mixed use development where about 40% gets retained, and then the remaining 60% becomes more community space and or residential and retail. So for this, we have heard that there are some folks that have really said more things about housing, and it ranges from affordable to market rate. But a lot of people are not suggesting anything like high rises or luxury condos for this site. So if we're talking about housing, we would be talking around something like that. But we still need to like get more information. But nonetheless, we have an example of how this could look like, about 5 stories high, showing more like an anchor for retail, and then some other things that could be placed here that can add value, community value. Then the last scenario is a garden with mixed use retail and housing. About 50% of the garden is retained here. And then 14, there's a pocket that's residential, and then some pocket that is like an incubator, retail, and or commercial. So this is something that we also have heard, where a lot of people are saying that there should be some type of anchor for retail, but then still potentially use it for local businesses, or have something like an Aldi as a low cost grocery store, because their closest grocery store is Jewel. And even that, some people think that it is erring on the side of still expensive. And then there's also a lot of folks who go to Evanston to get groceries. So whatever happens, kind of like we've heard a wide range of desires for retail, even though there's a retail vacancy rate along Howard. So these are the 4 scenarios that were based on all the surveys, on all the focus groups and workshops that we conducted. So overall, we've reached about over 200 for the surveys, the first survey. Then the visual preference surveys, we reached over 100 people. And then fortunately, we were able to translate both surveys into English, Spanish, and Swahili. And then we were able to do 4 focus groups and reach about 50 people through the virtual or in-person sessions. And from there, we just have like a wide-ranging array of desires. So these scenarios reflect a lot of the many things that people have said. So we try to keep them on average about 50% garden, just to kind of resolve some of those tensions with the garden, even though it may not be 100% feasible. And so those are just some ideas that we put to paper. And we are so grateful for Mark, Emma, Karen, Passan for helping us with a lot of the numbers crunching and the actual design. And then the other thing I wanted to share is for the panelists, what we're actually calling it is this practitioner circle. So Steve from ICNC is somebody who's familiar with incubators and working on the Kedzie corridor and also the hatchery. And so that is an incubator project that might be possible for this site. Chris from the Botanic Garden has been helpful and instrumental in the Farm on Ogden project. Ben from Neighbor Space has been involved with kind of just managing community gardens across the city. And then Wendell has done some work on like obviously financing projects like this. So we think that this is a good panel of kind of different areas of focus and expertise. So hopefully if you can join us tomorrow, it'll be a good discussion. And then super grateful for Mark for helping put together these renderings so that people can kind of see it from a side view of the 4 different scenarios that is not in a sketchbook form.
That's very exciting.
Can I ask a question of this group?
Of course.
Because you guys,
please do.
you guys have been such great thought partners. I think one of the challenges that we're facing with the conversation tomorrow, because there was a lot of resistance of people to actually build out much of the site because people really wanted to keep the green space. The scenarios as they are may not be as feasible, when you think about what's actually needed to support the cost of the development. So I'm just, we've been trying to be thoughtful about, I think we need to be honest and say that and use the experiences of the practitioners to kind of talk about kind of the realities that they face in trying to get other projects off the ground. But I guess I guess the question is of this group, because there has been kind of like a pushback against, we don't want to lose green space. We don't mind having multiple uses, but we don't want a lot of density of, I guess I would be very open to hearing other thoughts about how we should try to frame this.
Framing the need for, or like the possibility of development footprint on the site?
That I think we can have a conversation about uses and what could go there, but the reality may be, we may, in order to get to that vision, more of the footprint of the garden may have to be built out than what people actually would like to see, or what they indicated in the design charrettes.
How do you frame that? Is that the question?
I mean, I think so. Like, what is a good way to approach it? Because I just know that's going to be a tension. Density has been a tension since some of the early conversations that we've had. And, and feel free, others who've been in the design charrettes, if you feel like there's different opinions. But would love to just get some other thoughts about this.
Well, I would love to, Rachel is a resident also, and, but I don't know, Rachel, I don't want to put you on the spot if that doesn't feel right. But like, I will be curious, like seeing the back of like designing all these things and working, and like the questions that emerge, and you're a resident and you came to the workshop, and you have this kind of nuggets of perspective. Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly, like, when I heard about these workshops that were happening, I got really excited. I mean, I do, well, not so much, I didn't this year, but in the past, up until this year, I was using the garden space as a gardener, and I love the garden. But I also, I mean, when I went to the first meeting, not the in-person one, but before that, I definitely was like, let's try to see what we can make of this, because yeah, I mean, I think realistically, it's not going to be just a garden. Like, that's, fortunately or unfortunately, it's just not, super financially feasible. But I don't know, it's hard for me to say, because then when I've gone to some of these other meetings for the workshop, although I live in Rogers Park, that's not my micro neighborhood. I go there pretty often, but it's not where I like inhabit the most. I mean, it's definitely walkable. I seriously walk there all the time, but I'm not living that space. And so, I mean, I certainly realized some of the things that I was kind of neglecting when just kind of dismissing the idea of a garden, and so I don't know, Kendra, that's so hard, because I feel very privileged in being able to say, like, oh, well, let's just make the best of what we can, so I don't know. I think that you're right, Kendra, in that we need to acknowledge like the reality of the situation. And I do find with Rogers Park that if you do involve the community as much as possible, like, they may not like it, but if they get to like express that and be a part of that, then they feel, I don't know, like they've had more of a hand in it, at least. And I've said this in all the meetings, I always think like involving the women is really helpful in trying to both like spur business, and I don't know, I was even thinking like a women's bank or something like that, but I don't really have a good answer. So sorry if I can be more helpful, but I think just being honest is probably best with us.
This is,
oh, go ahead.
This is Anthena. In terms of framing, I think that it will be very good on MPC's part just to say that we heard everything that you said. Like, we know you want to keep the garden, but we also know that based on the surveys and the charrettes, that you also have other secondary preferences. And if those secondary preferences can be pulled forth into like the RFP and what have you, then that's also productive for the larger conversation. I think that's the most important thing, is that people feel that they have been heard, even if they don't get their first choice, and understanding that they have also spoken about choice 1, 2, 3, and 4 helps.
Kendra, and maybe also just saying ways in which we are looking into how it could maintain a garden. You know, like even if we know that that is a very slim possibility, you know, like have we talked to, you know, the now I'm forgetting the name of, there's like a garden co-op that is looking for a home here in Rogers Park right now. Like, have we talked to them? Or, you know, like maybe just showing that like, it's not like we've just dismissed this idea because it's likely not possible, but we're exploring that opportunity, or like how we could get funding to keep it a garden or whatnot, just to like show that we're doing those our due diligence.
I also think some of the, you know, this was such a quick exercise, right? Like there was a lot done in a very short time frame. And I think one of the items that wasn't necessarily unpacked or explored was spacing and like, and you know, like parcelization. So I feel like they're pending, some of the pending kind of aspects of the study at the level probably of the RFPs, like what does it look like if we split the parcel in 3 or in 2, and what goes first, and like I think the phasing and the pace of development and figure out those things as not one chunk of land. I think that's part of the next part of the conversation.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I agree with that. And, you know, part of it is just to begin to really set a foundation to talk about trade-offs. But I know sometimes people get really connected to the visuals and the ideas that they put out. And the goal is never for the charrettes to be like what was designed as charrette to be exactly what happens on the site, because we know, you know, that almost never happens. But it's really to tease out like what are the broad concepts and guidelines that should be really the focus that would help shape an RFP that will be more representative of these things that people want at the corner.
Yeah, and Kendra, I will add, I think a huge thing to drive home is, and I said this in our meeting a few weeks back, just leading with the fact that what we are putting together is on behalf of the community to inform a future developer, rather than we are telling you this is exactly what should go on this site. And then the other thing to really drive home, I think, would be, and to, of course, we have to be sensitive in the way that this is framed, but just speaking to the opportunities for dense developments that are layered and stacked different ways to actually increase the vibrancy of a neighborhood through like diverse spaces, and how those things can really cater to the community in addition to what's already happening there.
Yeah, go ahead.
If I could add to those thoughts, I think that the presentation does a really good job at showing different scenarios for the garden, and maybe something that would help me as a viewer and I'm sure other residents is like, what are the trade-offs between those different use cases, and being really specific about the challenges of keeping it a garden space. Because I think we say like, well, it's not feasible, but like what does that mean? Like what would it take to make it feasible? Just so people kind of like can understand that, because I know nothing about like development or real estate, and like a lot of this kind of goes through my head, so that might also help.
That's actually a good point, where I was never clear why the Peterson Garden project was having trouble maintaining this or the offset, right? Like I think maybe that would be, if there's no garden owner, it might be an easier, right now it looks like there's someone there who has a really nice garden. So I think Ray has a good point of just maybe highlighting why couldn't it be just a straight up garden is not super clear.
I think that was one thing that was the way we kind of talked about it too, was here are all these ways that developing the site can benefit the neighborhood, but I think residents see it not just as the development potentially adding benefit to the neighborhood, but taking away a benefit that already exists there. So kind of pivoting that mindset as a way to incorporate or supplement or encourage the resources that already exist.
I'm curious, Kendra, like the previous exercise was in Woodlawn, right? And it has been a while since that. How does that site look back at the work that the CDI process did? And like, did it veer completely? How did that inform what actually happened later?
Yeah. So the general uses, I think, were pretty consistent. What the site looks like? No, because they're knocking down the bank building and building new construction.
Oh, they decided to demolish?
Yes, that was the proposal that got accepted. But I think there were also different dynamics happening in Woodlawn. The land bank, really centered the recommendations as part of their RFP process. The market interest was not the same. So even when the RFP went out, I think the land bank maybe only got 5 proposals, and 2 of them were like non-responsive. So they really had to work with like 3 proposals from that side. So I think, the dynamics are going to be different about considering what the response may be for this site versus the site at 63rd and Cottage Grove.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Like you might ask, but you might not get what you asked for.
Yeah.
Which is, not unusual in development. I feel like the conversation that you are creating around expanding the mindset of the type of development, right? It's not, I think the people that you're lining up for this meeting tomorrow have broader views of how community development can happen with the things that we heard, like employment generators, economic generators, and some other forms of community spaces that have some form of governance and are more sustainable. So I feel like this planning exercises at the end are, just one, connecting dots, and 2, trying to understand what else is possible before narrowing the options.
Yeah.
Also, maybe kind of going back to what Louisa said, but explaining why certain things might be good for the neighborhood. Like right now, it's confusing to me why commercial space, maybe in all these I can see, but like why would commercial space, when there's so much commercial space that's unused, why would more of it be good? Or why, like when you say job training, like what exactly does that even look like in a neighborhood like Rogers Park? Like, so a lot of the stuff is hard to even imagine it's just hard to imagine some of it.
My last comment would be that just given the circumstances and the times that we're in, wherever there's an opportunity to leave an open door for feedback and input, especially from people that probably didn't get a chance to participate of this, would be helpful as well. I was on one of the Plan Commission meetings, and a community in Chicago that's pretty well off had a lot to say about having to do the meetings virtually with the developer in the city, and they didn't have a real chance to do a lot, and they were being cut off intentionally by the developer when they had control of like the Zoom or whatever. So a little bit of that is happening out in the world, unfortunately, but wherever there's an open physical door for feedback would be great.
Which brings me to, I'm going to pivot a little. If anyone has an additional comment related to this, I don't want to cut you off, because that's what I wanted to just pivot really quickly about. The question at the beginning of the season was, how does socially distanced engagement look like? And this is not going away. I think we have another good year of this type of engagement. And yeah, I wanted to think with you all like some of those reflections. I share the slides in the chat. We're not going to go through all of them, but I would like to spend some time. Did I share the right one? I think so. Can you see my slides? On this one's like how is implemented. I think for us it's a really good reference to think about, you know, in this virtual world, and then this remote outdoor in person was a good attempt and tried, yet we found that was challenging either way. So what are the lessons learned? What things do we want to what actually worked as planned, and what things might need to be recalibrated as we continue to do this work. So if it's okay with you, I would like to spend like the next 10 minutes or so talking about the 3 different ways, and the rest of the content you guys can see it on your own on the slides. Does that make sense? Because I think we want to package and like end the session saying, okay, how do we, what did we learn? And I feel like this one, it was really challenging to just in general being in person, but not being able to you know, engage in the dynamic that means to be, you know, building things together. I feel like the visual preference boards were both critique and also a good like conversation starter. But yeah, any insights that we should add to this slide just for documentation of this process? Especially for those who were there, like Matthew and Louisa, Rachel, I think you were in this session.
And this was, you're just asking about the in-person session, right?
Right, so we have, you know, is there anything in person that we should have done different? Or I feel like that's the last, yeah.
We talked the day of actually about maybe potentially moving the block moving exercise into the center of where the precedence boards were, because there's a lot of conversation generated with the precedent boards as something to bounce off of, like, oh, you know, there are these programs that are missing from the neighborhood, but look at the size of this building, and like we don't want that there. And so to move the blocks while looking at images of what also already has been built elsewhere might have helped generate more conversation at the blocks exercises. I don't know what other facilitators might have to say about that, but I did feel like there's a lot less energy around the blocks portion.
I think we should have done it on the site. That was my post thought. Like, I feel like we could have done it in the garden space for 2 reasons. 1, because it's easier just to like point things once you're there. 2, because it was just another excuse to meet the people. I felt challenged when specifically the first group, like, hey, we are the ones doing that. See you later. So I think the lesson learned from this, from my end, is I think as possible having these events on the site where would have been, I think it would have been a different outcome. We just thought this was more convenient, and you know, the bathrooms and all this kind of logistical stuff that is important too. But we would have probably had the opportunity to meet some of the neighbors that came and did some gardening that day, as opposed to trying to like bring people. We would be meeting them where they at. I know that was a collective decision. At some point it sounded like a good idea, but I'm just reflecting on that.
I thought the part where we went around and like put, I think it was stickers on, or I don't know, stickers or beans or something on the
like those boards.
Yeah, those boards. I thought that was a lot more helpful than the blocks, because I felt like the blocks we were just kind of like, oh yeah, let's put some retail, or oh yeah, we just kind of like were randomly doing that.
Yeah.
But this, I felt like I was like, oh, this is an aesthetic. Like I can visualize something here. And I guess maybe if we were doing the blocks, maybe it's more of like, well, if we do put something here, do we want it to be colorful, or do we want it to be, you know, like you were doing with these boards, like brick or glass, or just like more design ideas? Maybe that's like also something that we can focus on, like, you know, if it's not going to be a garden, at least what's it going to look like?
Yeah, that's a good point. Go ahead.
I'd also be interested on, I can't remember what, oh, it was a shred I actually did with Omni a few weeks back, but it was cool because in their engagement, they had a section where you could actually talk about like neighborhood assets, like what is around here, what do you like, what, so then instead of people thinking immediately of like, oh, what is missing or what can we add here, they're kind of recognizing what already exists in the neighborhood. And that was really helpful when we were designing to have that information to inform that. So just something to consider for the future too.
Yeah, agreed. And I'm just gonna jump through this stuff. What do you guys think about? Oh yeah, go ahead.
My thoughts from facilitating the first couple of them there. I think the one that really jumps out is how do we engage different parts of the community and different populations that have a vested interest that may not have been as willing to be there in person, or whatever challenges were in between us and getting their input. I think that to me is kind of the thing that jumps out, and how do we rate it, whether it's a digital divide or language divide or a cultural divide in terms of people not feeling comfortable potentially giving this sort of feedback or engaging with quote unquote the public sector, government, whatever, and those interests. I think that to me was the thing that really jumped out, since we got good input from the folks that were there, but definitely felt like they may not have been the people that were most directly would be most directly influenced by, or most what I'm looking for. Impacted, yeah, kind of reliant on the way the space is used now.
That's good. That's fair. What do you folks, thanks Matthew, really appreciate that. What do you folks think about the virtual? I think that was the innovation here. We were all, there was I'm just trying to document this around what I know, because I was more aware of the kind of prep work than the actual workshops. I think I was able to attend to, but from what I know, the prep work in preparing a model, and then thinking, how much can you have a conversation around a digital model? So the breakouts were a strategy for doing that, for addressing that. And then what I really enjoy, and I was in that session, I don't remember, the other board, the whiteboard that Cassandra from SIDE used in a very dynamic way to bring references and sketches, and just as a very kind of engaging visually, right? Like there's just so much that you can do with a screen, but I think the combination of tools was, it started to do that. I think we kept it really simple. So the idea of just having color, like kind of recreating literally what we would have in person, like color blocks, but now they were digital, helped. So some of the things that I think they were missing is that, whereas you can draw in person, like sketch some of the landscape, in digital world is very difficult. So some blocks that talk more about different types of open spaces and plazas. And I think we did a basketball court at some point, but I think it was very driven by building form. And I feel like that's the nature of the exercise to start with, but thinking more of landscape options that can expand the conversation about that intersection between building and landscape. Who was in this sessions? Luisa, you were in some of them. I don't know if, well, all the MPC team, of course. What do you guys think? What could have been done differently, or?
So I guess because I think in general, the block exercise can be difficult to kind of get to jump off, because people Or like, it takes people to wrap their mind around what the heck they're supposed to be doing with the blocks, what the blocks mean. Should they be touching the blocks? It's like somebody has to like break the ice and just start putting stuff down before people like really jump into it. So I guess I thought with the digital format, I feel like some of that was lessened because you had the designer kind of like listening to the conversation and kind of like beginning to build stuff out to suggest those things. I do agree with you, kind of like the illustrative portion of that is lessened unless you know, can have somebody kind of sketching too, and then go back from the digital to the sketching part, which, you know, could be very hard. And then the really trying to understand the site in relation to reality and looking at a digital form, I think is, you know, is kind of hard too.
Yeah, I think it was really, I think I've said this before too, like it was really hard for the designers, the people running the model, to design on the fly and listen at the same time. So maybe, I don't know how to fix that. Maybe in the future it's like the model comes later, but then you miss that opportunity for people to kind of see things and react to something. But yeah, that was definitely something I think that didn't work as well.
Also, this format missed a little the visual preference conversation because people didn't have opportunity to do their selection in a similar way that, or in the way that happened in person, right? Like the choices that your dots and the least and the most, that ease a little bit the conversation in the in-person was a little, but it was very different here.
I think that it's like the doing the virtual one, like people really, I think, had a different perspective on like looking at the model. Like it looked more like, I guess, pictures that they'd seen instead of like looking from above the way you would at like the block model. But I also feel like it was like, I agree, like it was really hard to like listen and design at the same time. So I don't know if it'd be possible to like incorporate a little bit more, maybe actual like drawing participation from the participants, like maybe with like the annotate tool or something where they like could scribble like on the, you know, the what's it called, the board or something, and or like make kind of annotations on it, because I thought it was really hard sometimes to like use the words and like try to explain what they wanted like with words, whereas like in the block exercise it was easier for them to like point at it and like move it, you know. Another thing is like, especially with the virtual one, I feel like it was really hard to get onto the site as like a tabula rasa condition where like there wasn't really any like sense of scale, I think, in the virtual space, and like being able to maybe put like the plots of like gardens or something there in advance, or some of the references that would be familiar, I think could kind of help get people into like understanding what they wanted on the site.
Yeah, I feel like this one might require like stronger training and simulation. Because one of the, I missed the workshop, but like I feel like one of the comments was, there was one scheme that was not representing anything that was being said. And I just laugh at that because it's not unusual, but also, you know, you just sometimes don't know. It's hard for the designer, right, to be doing this in real time and moving things and kind of articulating into a physical form what is being said. And similar to what Kendra was saying, like when you're in a conversation and you're just moving blocks around, like you don't get it right, but then that's just kind of stimulating and sparking the discussion in different directions. Here, I feel like that was a little challenging.
Yeah, I think the number of volunteers on the call was maybe a little stressful. As a small group facilitator, I was like, hadn't met half the people who were facilitating, and I think we probably could have done a better job at like explaining how we were all supposed to interact, like, but especially between designers and facilitators. And then the whole development forum became this like big time crunch. So I think there was like, and I think that also speaks to like the amount of work that went into virtual, maybe compared to the other ones where it was like you have like 5 designers in each small group and then 3 residents and like prepping all of that. And people kind of just like showing up and feeling like, oh my God, this is like a lot. So it kind of feels like virtual. It's just like there's no ramp up. It's just like really intense. It requires a lot of like shifting the mindset. And also something I noticed from like both the small groups I was in is I just felt like there was kind of like it was hard to talk about like the power dynamics that existed, because the way that the engagement was designed was like we're designing things, but there was so much that was like left unsaid, I think, because this was the first time where they're invited to like talk. It's like, what do you want to use this space for? And it was less focused on like relationship building, on like kind of an outcome. So I think that became a tension in at least one of the groups I was in.
That's super interesting. Yeah, like the kind of the warm up, like there wasn't, and I feel like some of you designed it there, but definitely like strengthening that part of like the training, right? And the simulation, that's what helps to think of what would you do in some of those situations. Yeah, all good insights. Last but not least, I feel like this was something that we also tested. And Debbie, how did it go with I'm just curious from my end, how did it go with the schools, with the students? Did they turn in? Yeah.
So we received like 10 or 12, I don't remember, like a dozen back. And I featured one in our presentation. But some of them were like super pragmatic and were like, we needed to be like a daycare or a school, like tutoring facility or something. And then there were some students who like suggested a water park or a hospital or like something that maybe missing to them is missing in that neighborhood. And so the water park idea, I definitely put in the presentation. But I think the students themselves, I think some of them were like in second grade. And so there was a teacher that was like helping them think through the project. But the principal sent me back like a whole thing of results. And that was super exciting and like super cute to read through some of them. So I thought that was great. We probably received like 20 something back. There were some that, so out of the 50, there were 10 that were never actually sent out, or they were sent out, but then the community group didn't actually distribute them. So then there was really only like 30 to 40 that were actually distributed. So 20 of them, so about half of that was received back. Then there were folks who sent emails saying like, oh, you know, I just couldn't do it. I like lost my job, whatever, and then just don't have time. So I received a couple of those emails, and then there were some that came back with like super fancy ideas. They even like hand drawn some and like did some really nice block exercises and pictures. And then there are some people who were like, you know, I heard some feedback. I'm not a real resident in this area, but I think that it should be like this. And then they would give like a full explanation of like why they decided to come up with something like that. So ultimately about half or so completed.
Yeah. I was really impressed that the Google form actually worked. I wasn't really expecting that to be a vehicle. So I was really excited to see that we actually got submissions. You know, we were skeptical. It's like you take a photo and then you use your phone and whatever. But like that actually worked. And I was really excited to see that. There were like 4 or 5 entries, but just I never tried it in that way. And, you know, we put this guide that Anthena worked on. Where is it? Yeah, like the packet had like the pieces, the base map, and the instruction, the one pager that I think it was very helpful to have all these things just kind of in a one pager and in a language that was a little, you know, Anthena did a really good job just kind of changing the language and making it more accessible. So a lot went into designing something that, you know, we haven't really done before, and we didn't have any idea how people were going to use that. So I'm excited to hear we got some back. So that's really, really, I don't know, that was exciting. I feel like what I learned is that I didn't start working in this group, so I feel like I came late in the game. But I really enjoy like the development of didactics, either videos or like instructions. And if we really had probably more time, that's me in my kitchen, just trying to do something, you know, that demonstrated that. But it does need some kind of production that is different. So this is kind of the beginning of like making a video that you can watch for 5 minutes, and like it tells a story of how would you think about this process, right? So I did realize like this needs a lot of production, and it's okay, but I think the time frame was it was just too tight for the level of production. Probably when you're not in I feel like it's similar to like teaching. It's like the production of these things for teaching someone how to do something over the screen or just watching a video in an asynchronous way. It resonated. It reminded me of that when I went teaching online. That was a lot of video production. And I think the office hours idea was really a good idea. We didn't have anyone coming, but I think if that would have been built from the beginning, if we have thought about that from the very beginning, maybe we could have had some folks like coming a couple of times back with like, what did you do today? And like, how did you evolve? So like, just a little bit of like a checking included in that methodology would have been, yeah, some kind of like middle point feedback or conversation. But yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents on this one.
The other thing that I would add is that originally when we were thinking about this, like we were saying like people should just either make it from their homes or like use things from their house. And I'm really glad that we did the foam blocks instead, because then it became very consistent. So I do want to shout out to the people who worked on it. Thank you.
Yay. And foam, you're not carrying like heavy blocks around the state. No, that was fun. It was definitely intense producing that. But like, I feel like if we would have been, I don't think you need to be in this type of thing. You don't need to be precise. I think precision was less important. And these pieces are very precise. So we could have just ordered that and not necessarily invest time in producing this. We could have just used pieces that are already made. And you know, in the case that we only had 50 packets, like we could have done more or other, it's just saving the time of the production and put it more in the development of the didactics and the tools to work with them. Yay. Genevieve, I think you put this together. I think this was really cool. Do you want to talk about this really quickly? This was so we put also the visual preference in the Google Forms. And if you remember, if you go, this is some of the responses that we received. You would go, this is a different mode. You wouldn't put a sticker, but you would do 1 to 5, the least like, the most like, and we listed all the images or like similar images that were used in the board. So this was our alternative to like, well, we're not having the board, so we want people to have some form of saying like, what do they like? This is the cut. This is a snapshot that Genevieve, it was Annie?
I think it was Anthena, wasn't it?
Anthena, did you do that?
Yeah. See?
Do you want to talk about it?
I can design stuff too.
I didn't know that. You didn't specify in the email. Sorry, it was just me. I just spaced out this week, guys. Sorry. Yeah, you want to just give a couple of comments on this one?
Yeah, just really quickly, there were 4 responses, and so if they added text, that is there at the bottom. So for each category, there were 4 categories: housing, outdoor space, economic generators, and amenities. So we just took the average ranking. So, you know, 4 responses, divide that by 4, and you can see here very clearly on the graphs which ones rose to the top. So a lot of support for varying materials, not so much for high-rise buildings, for housing. Outdoor space, garden and greenery took the cake. Not a surprise there, but still a lot of good information about the general usage. So there's a lot of support for outdoor space in general. And then for the next slide, the same thing. You can see where they are interested in having a certain type of economic generator. So workforce development, education, urban farm, coffee shop are the leaders. And with amenities, green roof, hit the roof, which is not unexpected from this group, but also the youth programs and the cultural and gallery space were also clear leaders. So I think, again, it's good to just show that this was a conversation about combinatorial possibilities as opposed to programming the site to be one thing, which I think should be reiterated in the conversations with the community.
Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it. I feel like Google Forms did more than I expected. I was just, we did it and see what happened, and it's nice to see some of the results being presented. The Menti did it very nicely in the virtual, and then the dots in the analog, and I just get into just be more hopeful with this. Thank you, Antina. That was great. Thank you. The last thing I want to say is we're going to celebrate in person. If you feel like you're okay meeting people in person, we're going to do a fire chat side at Overton. There is a yard that we activate with other events, and this is we're going to hang out on Saturday, socially distance, outdoors. You want to come and hang out. We usually do a social at the end of every season. So this is going to be our version of fall 2020. And this is in the newsletter. I'm just going to put it in the chat in case you want to hang out. The school is located at 221 East 49th Street. We're going to be there from 4:30, which is basically dark already, and we're gonna have a little open fire there. But yeah, that's the last thing I wanted to share. Hopefully you can join and we can hang out and celebrate and talk about what happens tomorrow, and wrap it up.
Is the social rain or shine?
Good point. Elle, what is our policy? I guess no, because it's outdoors. But bundle up. It got really cold really fast.
We'll send it. I mean, if it's really not good weather, we'll send a message out as a newsletter and to the invites.
Yeah, if not, I think we'll do the next Saturday. We'll just keep it Saturday because it's easier. Yeah, I think weekdays are complicated, but Saturdays are nice. We'll be there, s'mores. You can bring s'mores. There will be fire. Yeah, we did a mini celebratory post-election day on Saturday. So it was just nice to be outdoors. Cool. Anything else? I really appreciate all of you. This is going to be one of the most memorable seasons for sure, for many reasons. And I'm just excited to have collaborated on this and looking forward for tomorrow.
I do want to, before we leave, that just thank you to everybody who worked on this. This was really impossible for MPC to do this alone. So thank you again and again and again.
Yeah, this is a great group. There's a lot of energy and like a lot of talent and brilliance, and this is what we believe in. Like the future is collaborative, and then like creating the spaces for people to come together and do like shine, right? Because everyone is super, super good at what they do. Cool. Can I ask you a last favor? If you can turn on your camera, this is our last like screenshot to just kind of wrap it up. I'm gonna take a screenshot. Jane, Athena, Arnold, yay. All right, so here we go. Wave. 1, 2, 3. Yay. Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate it. I'm going to send that. And this is a wrap for City Open. Ellen, you want to say anything?
It's just been great to see how we can all actively volunteer on this, and looking forward to what comes next with City Open. Did not expect little Camila 6 weeks early, so really grateful for everyone who helped Paula when I went down. But yeah, this is really a nice model for what we can do in the future, and just also the fact that we can do it on Zoom and make friends is pretty powerful. So I thank you for all that time you took out of your day-to-day.
Cool. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a good night, and we'll hope to see some of you tomorrow and Saturday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.